Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. MC Mura here. Yesterday I did a community post announcing that we are doing an AMA video, pretty much an Ask Me Anything. So we're gonna check out some of the questions that you guys sent. Thankfully we got 28 comments on that community post, so thank you so much for everyone who commented. I haven't seen many of the questions yet, so let's check them out. The first one is by Bacchus, and I love the Bulbasaur, or the Bulbasaur. I love the Blastoise profile picture. I've always loved Blastoise the most out of the starters. Anyways, what character do you like a lot that most people seem to dislike? If we're talking Street Fighter 5, that would be R, Mika, and M. Bison. A lot of people don't like fighting them, but I do like these two. RQ saying, if I'm not mistaken, you said you live in Egypt, hence I was wondering how Western games and especially fighting games were perceived where you live. Especially consider that female characters tend to be independent individuals and show a lot of skin, which would go against the traditional Muslim values. So are such games simply ignored or tolerated because they mostly aim males? Is it easy for the local community to organize offline events, or do you need to keep them online? That is a very loaded question. I do live in Egypt, yes, and he's talking about Western games in general, but I think like if we're talking fighting games, the majority of the fighting games that had like a competitive scene were Japanese games, so it's kind of weird to bracket Western there, but anyways, yes, I don't think I've ever seen anyone get ridiculed for playing that games. Most people recognize that they're just video games and they don't really care that much, right? So I haven't seen like people not be able to like play games in like public places or anything because of the female characters' skins. But I also don't think like there was ever a game that was really big that had it really bad. Maybe Mortal Kombat 9 was like the worst one. Because of all the gore and the female character designs, but it never got that bad. I'm not sure if it because it mostly aimed males. I think it's just people don't care about video games, honestly. Is it easy for local community to organize offline events? For the most part, yes. The main issue is usually finding a good number of players. That's mostly it, honestly. Since you live in Egypt, again, Izong. Check out Izong's YouTube channel, by the way. Guy does really cool Street Fighter 5 content, very educational, so check them out. Since you live in Egypt, our online matchmaking overlaps a tiny bit, but is overall vastly different. Hence my question, how far does your matchmaking take you if you play 4 or 5 bars in Street Fighter 5? If I'm doing 5 bars only, that is pretty much Egypt, right? If we're talking about 4 bars, that will probably take me to France, sometimes Italy, and sometimes Spain, but that is mostly it. Who are you most excited to meet when you log into rank? I'm not sure if I'm excited to meet anybody, but there are 2 players that I like to fight a lot. The first one is Viggy. Viggy obviously is a very known player, and I like how he plays, and we always have fun matches. And the second one is Nadvit. Nadvit is an Algerian player. He plays G, he's a Grandmaster G player, and I like how he plays a lot. We always have fun. Anybody player, not a character that's a real struggle? Actually, yes. There is a player from Morocco called Dark Sword, and I've always struggled versus Dark Sword. My win record versus him is awful, and I'm not really sure why. He's a Karen main. The weird thing about Dark Sword is that I would see him lose to players that I beat, right? So for example, we fight some of his Moroccan brethren, like let's say Climax, and I do well versus Climax, but then I would lose to Dark Sword, maybe versus some of the Algerian players like KX Genocide or Aridun. We go kinda evenish, or at least it's competitive, but they beat him, but I can't beat him. I don't know, it's weird, it's really weird. Darksiders say 3 questions. Do you think Street Fighter 6 will be really successful? Yes, I do. I think it will be really big. Will it be as big as say Smash or Mortal Kombat? I don't think so, but it will be better than Street Fighter 5. It already is, honestly. Do you think that Street Fighter 3 is overrated? Oh my god. Oh my god. And by that I mean, is it a good game but not godlike as some are trying to push? So So I do think there is certainly players who never really played Street Fighter 3, I think at a decent level even, but think the game is amazing and will say it's the best game ever because they try to look cool. It's the game that if you say it's your favorite game, then you're a cool guy, right? So that aspect of it is certainly true. Is it overrated? I think it created one of the biggest fighting game moments ever, that is Evo 37. Is it an amazing fighting game? I'm sure the people who play it love it, but I personally never really liked the Street Fighter 3 series that much. So maybe a mild yes to that question. Do you think a pro scene is important for a fighting game success? I don't think so. If we're talking about sales and the game being like a mainstream like you have a real mainstream identity and people really know about it, then no. We have games like Mortal Kombat that is pretty much iconic in gaming. MK11 was like the best selling game of last year or the year before that, and the NRS competitive fight scene isn't that amazing. And even games like Smash sells a ton, but the competitive scene certainly there is a competitive scene for Smash, but I know so many players who like play Smash just for fun as a party game, but don't really know anything about the competitive aspect. So no, I don't think so, honestly. What characters are the easiest to use? This is a question by Suba Slashers. What characters are easiest to use and which are hardest? And this is interesting. I'm not sure if he's talking about like individual characters or character archetypes, but in general, I do think like if you're trying to pick up the game and learn and all of that, and just play at an intermediate level and do well, then typically rush down characters are the easiest to play because offense in general is easier than defense, and the hardest are usually grapplers because grapplers usually require you to know the options of the opponent, and that can be hard. And what do you think is better in terms of gameplay, Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter 5? I think I liked both of them. I liked specific versions of them more than the others. I really liked Super Street Fighter 4 and I really liked the current version of Street Fighter 5. Which one do you think is better in terms of gameplay? I prefer Street Fighter 5 overall. Like if I'm talking about the overall series, I do like Street Fighter 5 overall a little bit more. Offense or defense? Offense. And more mechanics like Guilty Gear or Persona versus traditional games. I don't think the number of mechanics actually matters that much as long as they are well thought out. I think just adding mechanics that are unnecessary doesn't make it a better game. Maybe it will add a little bit more depth, but I don't think it makes it, necessarily a better game. So I would like more traditional games like Street Fighter. Naros Jefferson was the question: why do you think DNF Duel lost players so fast even though it had good things going for it? So the thing about DNF Duel is that the game got bad-mouthed a lot. A lot of pro players, a lot of high-profile players say that they think the game is trash. A lot of people in general bad-mouth it. As the game have, I think the content count isn't that high. Like the game is a little bit bare bones in terms of content, and that was a bit of an issue. The balancing is really bad, and they never really put out a roadmap or said that they're gonna support the game, and a lot of people feel like they don't want to invest in a game that's not gonna be supported. So I feel like all of that kind of work together in making players lose interest. Sharif Adil is actually the guy who did my avatar, so thank him so much for that. What are your goals for the future? Doesn't have to be FGC related. I want to have a family. I would like to have kids and teach them, I don't know. I just want to have family. Honestly, I want to be a family man, as Guy would say. Atlas Rise, who's your favorite Street Fighter 5 character outside of Chun-Li and the Final Fight characters? Or Mika? Amiduda, that's a hard name to say. How not to be anxious when I go online in fighting games, how not being afraid of losing matches and my rank. So here's the thing, right? The more you do it, the less anxious you will be, in all honesty. It just comes down to a lot of experience. And you have to remember that you're not really defined by your rank. It really doesn't matter. Like, the best players in the world aren't the #1 ranked players on the leaderboard, so don't really think about it that way. Think about it as just an indication of your overall skill, and think about it like skill bracket. Don't think about like the number of points. If you are at 399 or 4000, that 1 point of being like, it will make you gold instead of ultra silver, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're better than the other guy. It really doesn't matter that much. Abdul Jalil, and I assume this is Ahmed Abdul Jalil. Which is your best Street Fighter game of all time? I think he's saying like what is my favorite Street Fighter game of all time. It's actually Street Fighter Cross Tekken version 2013. If you can rank them from worst to best, it's kind of hard to do because I played so many of them, but generally the ones I really like a lot are Street Fighter Alpha, especially Alpha 3, because I played it casually as a child. I like Street Fighter 2, I liked Street Fighter 4, especially Super Street Fighter 4, and I liked the V-Shift batch, the initial V-Shift batch of Street Fighter 5. MC Mura, what is the best most, question by Ace Hatik. MC Mura, what is the best, most effective and optimal way to get better at Street Fighter to try and compete in tournaments against the pros who have been doing it for many years? I know playing the game is a lot, is one, but there's a method or training regimen that you could follow. So here's the thing, I think once you are at a certain level where you can, obviously at first you need to play the game a lot, right? You just need experience, need to study character matchups and all of that, but once you have that down and you know how to think critically about the game, a lot of it comes down to honing down specific skills, like let's say checking out the training mode today and just focusing on anti-airs, or just focusing on cross-cut, or just focusing on hit confirms, etc., and keep working at a specific element of your game, and one by one you will find yourself doing better. Subterranean Retro Game, what a name. What are your favorite games besides fighting game? My favorite games are hack and slash games. Some people call them character action games. Pretty much Ninja Gaiden, Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, that style of games. Who was your first main when you were a kid? Damn, that is a hard question. Believe it or not, it was Dhalsim, because I was like just a little kid and I was playing with my friends Street Fighter 2 on the SNES, and Dhalsim had buttons that would hit like full screen, so I obviously didn't know how to do the special move. So if we're talking like that early, then it would be Dhalsim, because his buttons hit the full screen. Why wouldn't I play anyone else? Is Hatake again, how do you learn annoying, ambiguous and set up heavy matches like Dhalsim, Vega, Boys? Alright, so this is an interesting question. Obviously, if the characters are set play heavy, then you need to learn the set play, at least know how it, like what it is and how you can fight it. This usually comes, and obviously just learning the neutral of the game, but you have to know like the set play. Like for example, if we're talking about the Falk corner like storm setups, dive storm setups, then know like maybe you can V-shift this, or like maybe you try to V-reversal this, or maybe an invincible reversal will get you, that type of thing. And obviously focusing on the neutral. Yo Mura, there are secrets in Street Fighter 5 that nobody talks about. This is question by Gotra. For example, I know there is a way to option select your EX move behind the regular versions, so you only get the EX moves on contact or backdash tech OS. People always talk about wanting to get good, but most of them don't even realize that they still don't know all there is to know about the game. Yes. So the question here is asking if I know like any very high tech or super high level stuff that I haven't touched on or showed that much. I'm gonna keep it like completely honest. Like if there's something that is like, let's say for example that backdash OS, I know about it, but it's so difficult to implement into your game that I don't really bother. If it is something that I think is effective, like let's say for example Cody, you doing pressure and then OSing sway for beating V reversals, or like Ryu doing a button and then OSing the parry, I did actually cover those. But if it's something that is so obscure, honestly no. If I don't use it, I don't talk about it. That's honestly all there is to it. Ruben, Are you going to do a Minat or Karen character guide? It is highly unlikely. I'm really sorry, but it's very hard to do character guides for Street Fighter 5 now. Like as many of you guys do, because you're really anticipating Street Fighter 6. The desire isn't as strong as it once was, unfortunately. This one is funny. Polymorph in nuclear. This is funny. How did you get a wife? You want her to look like your favorite waifu. Love you, Mura. How did you get a wife? That's funny. I mean, you go out there, you meet someone, and you like them, and then you get married. That is how do you get a wife. You want her to look like your favorite waifu. I mean, I haven't really thought about it, but why not? Who is your dream guest character for Street Fighter 6? If we're talking like from gaming in general, then I would like to see Tifa Broly added. If we're talking like a crossover from a fighting game, then I would like to see either Kitana or Sub-Zero. Any Mortal Kombat character? Yes. If I'm talking Mortal Kombat characters, I would like to see Kitana or Sub-Zero. I really like both of them. Kitana would be hard to balance though. I think Sub-Zero would probably be a more interesting character. I've always felt like Sub-Zero was a Street Fighter character, especially the MK9 Sub-Zero. That was a really sick one. Please tell me how to space trap with Chun-Li. Chun-Li isn't amazing with space traps, unfortunately, because her buffers aren't that amazing outside of crouching medium kick, but you're most likely gonna try to do stuff like say standing heavy punch and then buffering a crouching heavy or like a crouching medium kick. That usually works, or maybe even a jab. Albert Mars with a question, are you a Muslim? And yes, I am.